My name is Ashley. I'm a nurse and a counselor and up-and-coming slash beginner herbalist. I am making videos to teach people about the things that I'm learning about with these herbs, to help people understand how amazing some of these herbs are. I use a lot of them in my daily life, and so I'm making videos to show you how I make certain tinctures. And today I'm making a tincture of holy basil. So holy basil is a plant that is the holy basil rama. That is the type of holy basil that I use. I've read that it is one of the most effective forms of holy basil. So the things that holy basil does, so first and foremost, it is quite a bitter plant. When you smell it, you can kind of smell its bitterness. When you taste it, especially if you make a tea out of it, it's quite bitter. When a plant is bitter, that generally tells you that it is pretty good for your digestive system. So if you take, for instance, coffee, if you drink black coffee like I do, coffee is quite bitter, and it helps kind of move things along in your digestive system. And holy basil is also bitter, and it doesn't so much move things along in your digestive system as it just kind of helps support some of the digestive juices and things that get secreted along the way in the digestive system. Some other things that holy basil does is it helps with memory, concentration, and it definitely helps with the stress response. So when you are in a stressful situation, if you're taking holy basil, especially on a regular basis, you definitely notice that you are not responding as strongly to certain stressful situations. You're typically just a lot calmer, and you're able to kind of take things more in stride. At least that's what I noticed when I took it regularly. So holy basil, I'm going to be making a tincture out of it today. So what a tincture is basically an herbal extract. You use the herb and then alcohol. I use 95% alcohol made from potatoes, so it is, it is gluten-free, and then I use distilled water to kind of make it the alcohol concentration that I want, because you don't want the same concentration for every single plant. Some alcohol concentrations are too high, and they kind of kill off certain useful parts of the plant. The constituents is what they're called, is the helpful things in the plant. And then you don't want the alcohol concentration too low, because then you're not extracting enough of the good constituents from the plant. So today I'm going to make a holy basil tincture, so I'll show you how to do that. So I have a scale here, measures pretty high quantities, and I have a sterilized jar here with my dry funnel. Dry funnel in the sense that that's what you use to measure dry goods, to help kind of keep them contained, to go within the container you want. So I'm putting my scale on ounces, and I'm zeroing it out. And then I want to make about 15 ounces of this, so we're going to see if we can do a 1 to 5. This is kind of a fluffy plant. We might have to make it a slightly higher ratio because it is a bit fluffy. So I'm going to measure about 3 ounces of the herb here, and we're almost there. And about 2 7/8 ounces, and then 3 ounces. All right, cool. So, all right, and then just gonna kind of shake that extra stuff out there. I'm gonna put this off to the side here, and then I'm gonna turn off my scale, and then we'll set that off to the side. So now, if I want to make a lot of dry herbs, when you make them into tinctures, you want to make them into a 1 to 5 ratio, meaning 1 part herb, 5 parts menstruum, or whatever liquid you're putting in there. So in this case, it will be distilled water and alcohol. And like I said, I have 95% alcohol. I don't want to use a 95% alcohol solution in there. It's going to kill off a lot of the stuff that I want to pull out of the herbs. So what I'm going to do is kind of dilute the alcohol solution down. And since I want about 15 ounces in there, that's about 450 milliliters. And I did the math earlier. It's a little bit complicated. I tend to really like math, and I could go through the whole thing for you. I don't have a whiteboard with me to show you how to do that, but so basically, if you want 450 milliliters and you want a 55% alcohol solution, is what I found from some of the readings that I've done. So this is a really good book that I have used to make a lot of my tinctures and glycerites. That has a really good description of a lot of different herbs and the alcohol percentages you should use, the constituents in each herb. I also follow a person named Sage Apotham. He runs the Evolutionary Herbalism School of Evolutionary Herbalism, and he releases monthly descriptions. Once a month he releases a description of one plant, and it's a membership that I basically pay for. It's about $27 a month, and you have access to a whole slew of different herbs. I think there's like over 70 or 80 herbs on his website right now, and he releases a new one every month. And his descriptions of herbs are the most comprehensive I've ever seen. So they range from anywhere from like 19 to 35 pages each. And so he just a whole plethora of information about each herb. So I got from his description of using holy basil, and then this book's description of making a tincture from holy basil, they suggest using a 60% solution. Sage Apotham recommends a 50% solution of alcohol. So I'm going to kind of compromise and make a 55% solution of alcohol. So in order to do that, I'm going to dilute it down. So we're going to have 261 milliliters of 95% alcohol, and then 189 milliliters of distilled water, and that will make about 450 milliliters of a 55% alcohol solution. So I have my little cup here that is graduated, and I'm going to measure out 189 milliliters of distilled water first. So this little thing only goes to about 150 milliliters. So I measure out 150, and I'm going to measure out about 39 more milliliters. Went a little bit over. Okay. And then going to. Alright, perfect. So we got about 189 milliliters of distilled water in there. I'm going to pour that into my extra container. And then we need 260 milliliters of 95% alcohol. So we're going to measure out, like I said, this little cup only goes to 150 milliliters. So measure out 150. When you're measuring something in a graduated container, you want to try to get to eye level with it to make sure it's as close to that actual line as possible. And then, so that's 150, so we need about 101 more. 101 more milliliters. Alright. Just a tiny bit more in there. Perfect. Alright. 161 milliliters of alcohol, or 261 total. So you can see there that we put 450 milliliters of solution in there of the menstruum, and it's not covering the herb. You want to cover the herb so that you can pull out the constituents out of all the herb in there, which goes to almost the lip of the jar there, and it's not going to the top there, so we need to add a bit more. So we'll do some math here. Excuse me. So if I want, let's add about 3 more ounces maybe. So we'll do, so I'll teach you, if you have a 95% alcohol solution that's basically pure alcohol, you'll basically, and if you want to dilute it down to 55% alcohol, that means you'll want 55 milliliters of alcohol, of the 95% alcohol solution, and then you'll want 40 milliliters of, in this case, distilled water, and that will equal 95 milliliters. which is about what we want. I want to add about 3 ounces. So let's do 55 milliliters. Okay, 55 milliliters of 95% alcohol plus, when I say 40 milliliters of distilled water. Okay. All right. Ta-da! Okay, so now your menstruum is covering the herb completely, right? So then you won't have things growing in there. As time goes on, so like over the next day or two, basically what happens is that dried herb will kind of soak up, especially the water, and the level in here might go down. So in order to keep the herb covered, I have to check on this to make sure that it is still at a just above the herb so that nothing is growing on it. So I will add alcohol and water accordingly to keep it at a 55% alcohol solution. And then I will keep track of how much I add each time because I want to make sure that I'm keeping track of the ratio of my solution, of my solution. So basically right now it is no longer a 1 to 5 solution. So we put in 3 ounces of herb, and then we had 15 ounces of solution of the alcohol and water solution added. So with that, then we had to add 3 more ounces thereabout. So we're at a 1 to 6 right now, basically. So there's a 1 part herb, 3 ounces, and then we added 3 more ounces of the liquid to make for a total of about 18 ounces. Excuse me. So 3 to 18, that is 1 to 6. So we have a 1 to 6 holy basil tincture, and what I like to do, what I've been told to do, is to place a piece of wax or parchment paper over the top here, and then you place the jar lid, which has been cleaned. I sterilize the jars, like I said in the beginning, and then I clean these with hot soapy water, and I try not to let anything touch them as much as possible to keep everything as clean as possible, even though this is alcohol. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of alcohol killing bacteria, but it's pretty amazing if you haven't seen it. So the alcohol will likely kill everything that's in here, if there is anything, but everything is sterile or clean with very hot soapy water. So I place the cap over the wax paper there, and I give it a little shake, and that just helps the liquid kind of touch all of the herb, and you can kind of see the liquid has already started to kind of like get soaked up by the herb. So I will likely be adding some more liquid tomorrow. So there we go. So the herb's covered again. And then label everything that you make. So I like to use a silver marker and then a black duct tape. Makes it really stand out. So what I place on my label here is the herb name. So this is holy basil, Rama, and then I put on there basically what the ratio is. So like I said, it's a 1 to 6 right now. We went for a 1 to 5, but it's too fluffy of an herb to do that. So 1 to 6, and then I put 55% alcohol. Okay, and then I put the date. And then, okay, so got the name of the herb on there, the ratio, the alcohol percentage, and then the date. And I will take this, and I'll show you what the label looks like. Stands out very well there, okay? And I put that on the top of the jar. I have so many jars right now because I'm getting ready for a show in a couple of months. So I put the label on top of the jar that way when I come back to it every single day, this has to sit like this for about 6 weeks. I like to do minimum 6 weeks. A lot of places, a lot of books, online sources say to do 4 to 6 weeks. I like to get the most out of my tinctures. I like to make them as strong as I possibly can. So I do 6 weeks minimum, sometimes 7 or 8 weeks. And about once a day, I come and kind of give them a little shake, turn them upside down, make sure that the levels in there look good, add liquid accordingly if I need to, which means I might need to change my label. If I add more liquid to this, I change the ratio on there. I might put a whole brand new label on there. And then at the end of that 6 weeks, I strain this out using some cheesecloth, sometimes a fruit press if I want to get as much liquid out of it as possible. And then I pour it into 1 or 2 ounce bottles, and this is what they look like. A little dropper there, and the droppers have little markings on them so we know exactly how much we're dosing ourselves with. Um, and I sell those on my Etsy shop and then on my own website. My website, my Etsy shop are called Branching Wellness, as you can see the logo up there above me. So I sell lots of different tinctures. I think I have like 25 right now. So if you have any questions, you can message me on either Etsy, my website, or you can comment below. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed watching, and if you have any questions, let me know.